All right, so today
Yeah.
we're going to be diving into something pretty technical. We're talking about migrating a Sophos UTM
Oh,
from an ESX hypervisor over to a Proxmox one.
all right.
Now, if all that sounds like jargon,
Yeah,
don't worry, we're going to break it down.
absolutely.
Essentially, what we're doing is we're moving a specific kind of security system
Yeah,
from one virtual environment to another.
gotcha.
But the thing is, it's not as simple as it sounds.
No.
There are some quirks involved with these systems
Yeah, they definitely have.
that make it a little trickier than just like copying files over.
Right, exactly.
So we want to make sure we avoid any gotchas that might come up.
Oh, for sure. And there are definitely some gotchas.
So let's start with the absolute must-do
Yeah.
before you even think about moving anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Backups.
That is critical.
Yeah.
I've seen, people skip this step
Oh, yeah.
and it goes south really fast.
Yeah.
Because if the system crashes during a migration,
Right.
and you don't have a backup,
Oh,
you're in trouble.
ouch.
You're going to have to rebuild everything from scratch.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare scenario.
All right, so backup secured. What's next?
Okay, so the next step would be to create a new virtual machine on Proxmox
Okay,
and then import the disk image from your ESXi host.
gotcha.
Now, this sounds pretty straightforward, but this is where we start to run into those quirks.
All right, so give me an example of a quirk we might run into.
Yeah, so one common issue is that the Sophos UTM might refuse to boot on Proxmox.
Really?
Yeah, and you'll probably get an error message that says something like, can't find dev disk B label root.
Okay, now we're getting a little technical.
A little bit, yeah.
What does that even mean?
So this all comes down to how ESXi and Proxmox handle disk controllers.
Okay,
Think of it this way. They both speak the language of hard drives,
yeah.
but they use slightly different dialects.
Okay.
So Proxmox might not understand how ESXi has labeled and organized the virtual hard drive.
So it's a communication breakdown.
It's a communication breakdown between the hypervisors.
Gotcha.
And often, to fix this, you have to do something that seems a little counterintuitive.
Okay.
You have to switch to an older type of disk controller called IDE.
Wait, IDE. I thought that was like ancient technology.
It is older technology.
Isn't it way slower
It is slower, yeah.
than the newer types of controllers?
Yeah, but in this case, compatibility trumps speed.
Okay.
IDE is like common language
Gotcha.
that both ESCS and Proxmox understand perfectly.
So it's like using a universal translator for your virtual machines.
That's a great way to put it.
You sacrifice a bit of speed to
Yeah.
make sure everything is talking to each other properly.
Exactly.
All right, so we've talked about disk controllers.
Yeah.
Check. What other quirks should we be aware of?
So another tricky issue involves a file called fstab.
Oh,
And this little file tells the system where to find the hard drives when it boots up.
okay. I think I vaguely remember that from my Linux days.
Yeah.
How does that cause problems during the migration?
So imagine you move to a new city,
Okay.
but all the street names have changed.
All right.
Even though the streets themselves are the same,
Okay.
that's essentially what happens with fstab.
All right.
ESXi might call a drive SysDA, while Proxmox calls it VA.
So it's looking for a drive with the old name,
Exactly. It's a naming mismatch.
and it can't find it.
Yeah, and it can't find it.
Okay.
So to fix this, you need to boot the VM with a live Linux image
Oh, okay.
and use a command called lsblok to see how Proxmox is labeling the drives.
Okay.
And then you can update the fstab file accordingly.
All right. So it's like going to City Hall
Yeah.
and getting a map with all the new street names.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what if, even after all of this, the UTM still won't boot?
Right.
What are our options then?
Well, there's a more advanced technique called booting into an emergency shell. Yeah, this essentially lets you interrupt the boot process
Oh, wow.
and tinker with the system's core settings directly.
Okay.
Now, it is a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but it does require a bit more technical know-how.
Okay. So that sounds like a last resort kind of thing.
It is.
Is there a less intimidating option for those who aren't as comfortable with the command line?
There's always what some people call the nuclear option.
Okay. I like where this is going.
Instead of migrating the existing UTM,
Yeah.
you could do a fresh install of Sophos UTM directly on Proxmox.
Ah. So start with a clean slate.
Exactly, a clean slate.
But wouldn't that mean we have to reconfigure everything from scratch?
Well, not necessarily. Remember that backup we made at the beginning?
Oh, right, right.
You can restore your configuration from that backup
Oh, okay.
after the fresh install is complete.
So you get a brand new UTM
You do.
tailored for Proxmox, but with all your old settings intact.
Exactly.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's a pretty elegant solution.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the nuclear option.
Right.
Before we dive into the pros and cons of that,
Yeah,
I think there are a couple other tools and techniques worth mentioning
definitely. Yeah,
that can make this entire migration process a bit smoother.
for sure.
So let's take a quick look at those,
Okay.
and then we'll circle back and we'll
Okay.
really break down that fresh install option.
Right.
This is really fascinating stuff.
It is. It's a fun process when it works.
All right, we'll be right back after a quick break. Okay, so before we went on that little tangent, we
Right.
were about to dive into the nuclear option,
Yeah.
doing a fresh install of Sophos UTM on Proxmox.
Right.
What makes that such an attractive alternative?
Well, think of it this way.
Mhm.
You're essentially sidestepping
Yeah.
all those potential compatibility issues,
Right.
all those little gremlins
Gotcha.
that come with migrating an existing installation.
Okay.
It's like instead of renovating a really old house
Yeah.
with like mysterious wiring and plumbing,
Yeah,
you just build a new house from scratch.
Okay, so less chance of running into those discontroller issues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or the fstab issues.
Yeah, right.
And because you're starting with a clean slate,
Right.
you can configure the UTM to really take advantage
Yeah,
of Proxmox's specific features.
Okay.
It's like getting a custom-tailored suit
All right.
instead of trying to alter one off the rack.
Yeah, and potentially smoother sailing in the long run.
Exactly.
Since everything is built to work together
Right, yeah.
from the get-go.
Much less chance of those, like,
Right.
why is this thing acting up
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, those are the worst.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But wouldn't a fresh install mean losing all our configurations?
But that's where a trusty backup comes in.
Right, the backup.
Remember, we made that at the very beginning.
Yes.
Once that fresh install is complete,
Yeah.
you just restore your configuration
Yeah.
from that backup.
Okay.
And voila.
Nice. So it's like moving into a new house.
Yeah.
We get to bring all your favorite furniture, decorations, all that good stuff.
Exactly. It makes that transition so much easier.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of making things easier,
Right.
there are a couple other tools and techniques I wanted to mention.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's hear it.
Have you ever heard of Starwind VTV Converter?
I feel like I've heard that name.
Yeah.
But I can't place it.
Yeah, so it's a software tool
Okay.
that can help you move virtual machines
Right.
between different hypervisors.
Gotcha.
In this case, it can convert
Oh, okay.
that VMDK disk image
Yep.
from your ESXi system
Right.
into a format that Proxmox can easily use.
So it's like a language translator for a virtual machine.
Exactly. It bridges the gap between those different dialects
Right, the dialect.
that we were talking about.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a handy tool.
It is.
Even with all this help, this still feels like a pretty daunting task.
It can be, yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who's feeling a little overwhelmed?
I think the two most important things
Okay.
are testing and documentation.
All right, testing, documentation.
Before you even touch your production system,
Right.
set up a test environment,
Okay.
like maybe even a clone of your existing setup,
Gotcha.
and just run through the entire migration process.
So like a dress rehearsal.
It is, yeah,
Okay.
for your virtual machines.
Gotcha.
That way you can iron out any wrinkles,
Yeah.
build your confidence before you go live.
Right.
And while you're doing that, document every single step,
Yeah.
every command you use, every setting you change, write it all down.
You know, documentation always feels like a chore to me.
I know, but trust me,
Yeah.
if something goes wrong during the migration,
Right.
you will be so grateful you have that record.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like having a breadcrumb trail
Gotcha.
to guide you back if you get lost.
I like it.
And speaking of safety nets, Proxmox has a fantastic feature called snapshots.
Oh, yeah, snapshots. I've heard of those.
Yeah, think of them as save points
Okay.
for your virtual machines.
All right.
You can take a snapshot
Yeah.
before you make any big changes.
Okay.
And if something goes wrong,
Yeah.
you can just revert back to that snapshot.
Oh, that's fantastic. Like a
Yeah.
rewind button
It is.
for your entire system.
Yeah, so to sum it up,
Okay.
test thoroughly
Right.
in a safe environment.
Yep.
Document everything,
Gotcha.
like your life depends on it.
Right.
And make liberal use of those snapshots.
I like it. So that's the recipe for a successful migration.
It is. It all comes down to minimizing risk
Right.
and being prepared for the unexpected.
Makes sense.
But before we send our listener off
Yeah.
on their migration adventure,
Right.
there's one final crucial point we
Okay.
need to address.
Ooh, Ooh, I like this, a little cliffhanger.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll be back in just a moment to unveil that final piece of wisdom.
Right.
Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back for the final act of our Sophos UTM migration deep dive.
That's right.
We've covered backups, disk controllers, fstab, even the nuclear option of a fresh install.
Right.
What's this crucial final point we need to consider?
Well, it's deceptively simple, but often overlooked.
Okay.
Why are you migrating in the first place?
Oh, so we've been so focused on the how.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about the why.
Exactly. Is it for better performance?
Right.
Increased security features?
Right.
Cost savings?
Right.
Or is it just because, everyone else seems to be doing it?
Yeah, it's like planning a road trip.
Right.
You might have your heart set on reaching a certain destination. What if the journey's going to be full of detours and potholes?
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth reconsidering if it's the right trip to take at all.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Migrating to a new hypervisor is a significant undertaking.
Right.
It requires time, effort, resources, and sometimes the benefits might not outweigh the costs.
So before diving headfirst into this migration, our listener needs to take a step back.
Absolutely.
Really assess their motivations and expectations.
If your current setup is meeting your needs,
Right.
and you're not experiencing any major issues, staying put might be the most sensible option.
Yeah, no shame in sticking with what works, right?
Absolutely not. But if you've carefully weighed the pros and cons,
Right.
done your research,
Yeah.
and you've decided that migration is the right move for you,
Okay.
then go for it with confidence.
And armed with all the knowledge we've shared today, you'll be well equipped to navigate the challenges that come up.
Absolutely. The key takeaways are preparation,
Okay.
understanding those potential pitfalls,
Yeah.
and having a solid plan
Right.
to address them.
And of course, those all-important backups.
Absolutely. Backups are your safety net.
Yeah.
Treat them like gold.
I think we've covered just about everything our listener needs to know to embark on this Sophos UTM migration journey.
I believe we have.
To our listeners, we wish you a smooth and successful migration experience.
Absolutely.
May your virtual machines find their new home on Proxmox without any hiccups along the way.
And remember, if you hit a snag, don't panic.
Right.
Refer back to the tips and tricks we discussed today.
Right. With a bit of patience, perseverance, maybe a little help from the IT gods, you'll get there.
You got it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, happy virtualizing.